I'm a software engineer. I've been working full time as a software engineer for just over 3 years. And I started after I got my degree in 2022. I got my degree from BYU, Idaho. And I got my degree in computer engineering. And that was really my introduction into, software and the world of tech. And I've loved it ever since. My first internship was in quality assurance. I was a software automation quality assurance lead, and where I wrote automated tests for a front end website. And I would say during the last 3 years, while I was working full time, I've been also working on side projects. And I've developed a handful of different websites just for myself, as well as
Mhm.
reviewed websites for other people and for friends, things like that. So yeah, I've used different AI tools before to build or vibe code, you could say, portions certainly of my websites, because I work as a back end software engineer at the moment, working with Java, Spring Boot, that kind of thing. So I wanted some more experience working front end, and that's kind of where I stepped into, building these front end projects, working with AI to see what it can do. How good is it? How fast is it improving? And those kinds of things. My first impression of Hostinger was that it was a really involved tool. There's a lot going on the homepage. I don't know that I've heard of Hostinger before, but the first navigation to the page, wow, this tool does a lot. I saw that there were different options there for, obviously, for hosting websites. Of course, there was a whole side panel. And so initially, I wanted to navigate the website and see if I could find horizons on my own, right? Because for me, the first process of reviewing a website is how easy is it to navigate, right? Like, if I'm looking for something specific, can I get there? Is it sort of, does it flow well? Is it intuitive? And at first it was a little bit not overwhelming, but there were definitely a lot of different things going on. But I was able to find what I was looking for relatively quickly, which, I've been to websites before where that's not the case. And there's, in some websites, there are sort of circular links that'll bring you back to where you started and you have to start all over again, that kind of thing. So that was my first impression of that website. But then when I navigated to Horizons, it was kind of a completely different feel from the main website, right? I mean, I think there's even like different color palette and everything going on. And that one was really clean, really straightforward. That was my first impression. Really easy to use. So like the introduction to that felt normal, similar to different AI tools, right? Where there's just a prompt that you give and then you wait for its initial response. I would say what it does well is it's really easy to use and
Mhm.
it's not overly complicated. And the initial walkthrough, the tutorial that shows you the different parts, that was really helpful. And I would say that for somebody that, maybe new to this realm of vibe coding or even coding in general, would feel like this is a tool they could use. I really liked that the whole thing was designed very cleanly so that on one side you had your chat with AI, with the model. And then on the other side,
Mhm.
you had the view of the website preview, as well as you could toggle in between the code and other in the editing window. But also it provided the links up at the top. You've got another chat bot there that you can ask questions, and it's not going to take away your tokens or anything like that with the initial website building chats. I could ask it questions about like, hey, if I've got a database that I want to integrate into this website, on my own, can I do that? And it gave me the answer, and it was consistent with the information that I found. I did use the chat mostly, obviously to build. I did two different websites. I really liked the feature with Cody, the assistant, I guess, if you want to call it. That was super helpful because, as I was using this tool, I wanted to know what can it do and what are its limitations. What is it, if I'm going to use this tool versus another tool for my next project, and how am I going to approach that? Right. I really like that because, usually when I'm using different tools, I'll either jump from that tool to like Google or to another AI model that I can ask questions to, which you don't have to do here. And then of course the publish button, as soon as that was done, clicked on that, and you're ready to go. And then you've got like at least a first draft that you can then share with, business leaders or whoever might be interested before you, kind of finish out the
Mhm.
project in whatever way you feel necessary. So yeah, I thought that was super helpful. I've built some UIs from scratch, and that whole process can take weeks. So, super easy. if I'm starting out a new project, I've got to create it from scratch, right? I mean, and there are some tools out there that will give you like a bare bones basic outline of like a React TypeScript front end, for example. And then but then you have to fill in the rest of the code, build out the components, connect your database, all those things, right? So this
Yeah.
obviously takes, well, maybe for somebody like me that does it part time, it could take a month of work
Hmm.
and boil it down to a few hours. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing right there, is it saves me valuable time. Oh, and then the second one, of course, it is expertise, right? There's, getting, typically AI is usually pretty good at, it's knowledge based, asking it basic questions. And that's another thing that I would utilize it for is, hey, I've got a question about, this security hole that I may or may not have found. Can you, provide some insight into that and how to patch it, that kind of thing. So yeah. I'll try to make the comparison as fair as possible because obviously I've got months and months of experience with Gemini. And of course I did these two websites with Horizons, but what I don't have with Horizons is the extended use as well as getting into more intricate, detailed and complex conversations and code changes. So, because Gemini does all right, the hardest thing though is the entire scope of the project, right? That's something Gemini doesn't have. It doesn't have,
Mm.
without extensive and lengthy conversations that sometimes, the longer they get, sometimes the crazier they get, and it starts to fail, and so you have to start over. It doesn't have that. So that's where this tool is really useful. Is it's got the entire project from base to now adding and changing features, which is a big deal, especially for, there's a business. It's actually a local business that I've been working with. I've been reviewing their website, and they're just a WordPress website with something like 600 or something crazy plugins. And so I've been trying to help them navigate, what their options are for creating a new website, right? And this tool is perfect for that use case because I can show them this tool and say, hey, you can build your website here and it will replace your need for hiring a developer, which is something they don't want to do. You just need somebody that can talk to this model from base to publishing, and now you can host it here, right? So it does have that benefit over the other tools that I've tried. The entire project as well as start to finish. I mean, overall, I thought the design was really clean. It was really easy to use. The only issue that I really ran into was there's a couple of, I guess I would say, suggestions.
Hmm.
In the view window where you could toggle between, previewing the website, editing the website, or viewing the source code. The editing portion seemed almost, I just couldn't see myself really using it. I mean, if that makes sense. I tried it out, but you can't really move any of the features around, like any of the elements. I didn't see that functionality if that was supposed to be there. At least it didn't work for me. The only thing it really could do was change the text, which again, being a developer, I would go straight to the code and just find it there and change it there. But I guess for somebody that maybe doesn't feel comfortable doing that, that might be an easy way to change things without using their conversation credits. But maybe more functionality there because again, I think the only thing I was able to do with that was change text. So having more functionality might be useful to even like drag or drop or move things around if that's possible. Otherwise, it seemed like maybe it was, and the second thing that I had, and this is pretty common for most AI models, and I don't know that there's much that can be done, but of course, some of the more complex commands that I gave it struggled with. Those are the only two real things that stand out that I noticed. The other one, I guess, would be just from the main landing page perspective is it took me a minute and it didn't take very long, but it did take a minute to find where my subscriptions were, what I'd be paying for. And I did notice that it looked like they were all separate. So like I'd be paying separately for Horizons. I'd be paying separately for some of the other things that were offered. So maybe having like one inclusive plan would be nice, but that's just a small. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. My wife works for a small business, a business owner. He owns a handful of different businesses. And like I said, I've been reviewing one of their websites because it's very slow, hard to use. And this is exactly the tool that they've been, something that they could utilize that they've been looking for is a way to build and manage their website without the need for full-time developer, more or less. So yeah, and any of those use cases where it's somebody that runs a small like content delivery type website that wants something more custom, something that they can, own more than just like a content management platform, this is the perfect use case for that. As well as, even personal websites, right? For me, like I enjoy creating new tools and new websites. So for anybody in my boat, that's another potential market, right? That's somebody that I would recommend it to.